God bless you. God bless you. Welcome to the Music and Wellness Conversation. My name is Collins Majale, aka Collo. I am a born-again gospel musician who is passionate about God and the mind of Jesus Christ, including wellness. And as far as mental wealth is concerned, I was asked a question on my take on mental health during the Cradle Arts Festival, which was organized by Headspace 254 and Mental 360 last year, 2019, on the 26th of October. And my response was, healing for the soul begins with a renewal of the mind. This was a quote that was inspired by our guest today, Prophetess Nekesa Wasike. Karibu sana, Mom. How are you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Niko salama sana.
You know, I don't want to assume that you are mentally well.
We can't assume. We can't assume. We can't assume. Everyone has their own level of crazy. You know what I mean? And it's just how to balance it. And that's why I was eager and I'm very excited to have you and to have this conversation with you today. Thank you so much for coming through.
Definitely, you're doing fine. Thank you for that question, Collins. Healing of the soul begins with the mind. This is very important because the first thing is you need to understand exactly what we mean when we are talking about the mind. And when we are talking about the mind, we are talking about the cognitive, the way we think, our judgments, you know, our attitudes, our beliefs. They are all tailored in the mind. And so the mind informs the soul. Being a Christian, I think you know a scripture that says that as a man thinks, so is he. So you are the sum total of your thoughts. So when your thoughts are like they are not in order, they are so negative, definitely it will reflect on your soul, because the soul is like the expression or the seat of the emotions. What you think, you tend to express it through your soul.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, that's interesting when you talk about souls. And for me as a musician, you know, I'm representing a mountain of celebration. It's where music, sports, arts and culture, especially when you talk of just influencing young people, it's a mountain that represents other mountains and spheres of influence. But this is where I belong personally, you know?
Yes.
And I've just been having a question. What is the role of a musician when you think in general society? What is an artist's identity? Let's just first of all start with those two.
Okay. Number one, when we are talking about the role of a musician, then we must understand what is music all about, because once you understand what music is all about, then you'll be able to understand your role as a musician. Music is a very powerful mode of communication, actually.
Yes.
Because when you sing, when you rap, when you do poetry, any creative, even drama,
yes,
you are actually communicating. You're passing a message. And you see, through music, you're able you can use music to actually change behavioral patterns of society, you know, especially vulnerable societies. Through art, through music, people can change the way they think, attitudes, and that's positive music. We say music is also therapeutic. I remember when I came in, I found you with the artists and I said, nobody can do without music. Nobody can do without entertainment. Not just music, even drama. All those are forms of entertainment. So whether you're a politician, whether you're a president, whether you are a pastor like me, there has to be music. Nobody can deny music and nobody can run away from music. Music can soothe people who are traumatized. Psychologically, it has been shown.
Yes.
There are some genres of music you play and people just become cool, they become
tuliza.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you see, when you look at music, you are also able to understand the values of our society. The kind of music that people listen to is kind of a mirror or a reflection of what that society's beliefs or value system
It's true.
are. It is a window.
It's true.
So when you talk about the role of a musician, the role of a musician is to channel all that I've said, you know,
Yes.
to communicate to the people, to entertain the people.
So when you say communicate and also I get the communication and the entertainment part, but not many musicians can distinguish the two, you know, because many of them, I feel, you know, many musicians don't understand communication, first of all, and they are yet to, you know, and even just entertainment. But even at this current phase and everything that we're going through, entertainment is not the same, you know. So that's why I'm curious to know about the role of a musician.
And that's why now identity comes in. When you lack identity, you cannot really be able to communicate to the people. Because number one, identity is who you are, what you believe in, your character, you know, your personality, what people say about you. That means that's your identity. And now, if you don't have an identity, then you cannot have a vision. Because when you entertain, when you communicate, you're supposed to communicate a message. So if you don't have a vision, a purpose, then you cannot have a message. Because, for example, I just want to give an example. We want to be real.
Yes.
The kind of music lately we hear, sometimes I listen, my son plays music and I wonder what they are talking about, because some of these songs, they are just about, they have sexual connotations and very dirty. They are not even...
Yeah, it's a culture that esteems the wrong things, should I say?
That's why we are still going to talk about shared identity.
Yes.
You see, you as Collins Majale, if you are not whole, identity is about your self-esteem, your self-worth, knowing who you are, what you believe in, and being able to express that, not necessarily the people validating you or being manipulated by the people. Because as a musician, I said, you should be able to communicate values or behavior patterns that can even bring healing or change society things, you know, vulnerable, like the young people. You see, when they are teenagers, probably we know what they go through during that adolescence crisis.
Yes.
Maybe they struggle with their identity, peer pressure. And most of them will look up to you, Collins Majale. They would look up to you as a mentor, somebody, because musicians, celebrities, they are influencers. We cannot deny that fact.
It's true.
So if you as Collins Majale, you don't even have an identity, you don't know who you are, and you're just talking instead of communicating values, things that help these young people to know who they are, their sexuality, affirming them in a positive way, it becomes a bit difficult. And you cannot do that if you've not carved an identity for yourself, if you are not whole.
It's interesting you say that, because it's just even in line with being the right steward. And you know, when you talk of, you've said communicating values, and even the kind of music that is being done today, especially, let's just focus on Kenya, there's a new genre of music called gengeton. And would you say that those young people are communicating the values they understand? In as much as the songs are, you can't, I personally can't consume such kind of content. But guess what? There's some people somewhere who are consuming this content. And when you talk of now communicating value to a gengeton young musician, then they'll think these are the values we've grown up knowing. How do you explain the identity to such a person?
You know what? That's why we are talking about this mental awareness for the celebrities, because Most of these young people look up to these musicians.
Yes.
Some of these children, when you look at them, as you said, you may look at it and feel like they are not being impacted. The values are not being communicated to them. But remember, these musicians who are on whole, they're having a codependent relationship with these children. They share a culture, that culture of the gengeton, the language. To me, that is filthy language. But you see, they talk one language that unites them. Because this music you hear, honestly, it's just to the extremes. It is very dirty. And symbolism. Because, for example, there's some music when you hear, you just know, hapa kutakosa bangi, cannabis, you see a flower drawn there. That is symbolism, and it is a message. So those people, they share a common culture. Culture is not about being African or what. It's a people's way of lifestyle. So even in music, you can be a celebrity and you are paving way for a particular culture. And that's why I think mental and this discussion about mental wholeness and health is very, very important, because you cannot divorce the musician's personality.
There's a book I read by Rick Warren, it's called Purpose Driven Life. He described personality, the shape, someone's shape. He says S is for spiritual gifts, H is for the heart, A is abilities, P is personality. And personality, he described it as being made with two elements, attitude and character. Now, in terms of a musician being able to reflect that, it boils back to what you're talking about. So my question would be, for a musician to be able to understand how to work on their character and their attitude to achieve a better personality, of course it's not an easy thing, because they've grown up knowing what they know, those values around where they've been brought up in.
I get what you're saying. You know what? Number one, you are a person before you are a musician. Let's just face it.
I like that. You're a person before you're a musician.
You're just Collins.
Yes.
Majale.
Tuachane na mambo was useleb. Everything is put on the side. You're just a person.
You are just a human being. You have your emotions.
Yes.
You have your issues. You have a family. You have a background. You have a history. Sometimes I listen to musicians when they die or they go through something. People say they had a premonition from the way they could sing their music. But sometimes I realized that musicians just play out their lives. Some of them play their past through music. So
it becomes an escape.
Yeah. So sometimes you can listen to somebody, and listening to the lyrics and how they do their music, you can tell this is somebody who had a very sad childhood,
It's
you
true.
know. And you look at most celebs, especially those who entertain people through comedy, most of them end up committing suicide.
A majority.
Because sometimes part of this entertainment can just be like a facade, like a mask, you see. And that's why even church, people can join church, yet it is a mask. Nothing is changing.
It's true.
That's why this mental talk is very, very important, because when you have mental issues, everybody finds way to cope. They are called coping mechanisms.
Coping mechanisms.
Yeah. And so coping mechanisms can be drug addiction. Coping mechanisms can be, you know, indulging in sexual activities, sexual addiction, pornography. Coping mechanism can be joining a choir and just being in church, and people say Collins Majale is born again, he loves the Lord. But it's just a coping mechanism. You feel like instead of going out to drink and being an alcoholic, I'd rather just be addicted.
I'm with you, and especially when you talk about coping mechanism, it's in line with, you know, many young people have been talking about depression, especially this word depression that is being thrown left, right, and center. I'm trying to understand this. I hope I'm in order. When you think of alcohol, when you think of masturbation and things like those, are those escapes that create a coping mechanism, or do they aid that?
There's something, there's up to a particular level that your body can take, even emotionally. You know, people don't know that emotional pain is more real than even physical pain. You see, if you beat somebody, there's a point even the person becomes numb, their wounds can be seen. We have what we call defense mechanisms. So some people just deny.
They're living in denial.
Yeah,
basically.
like they think the thing doesn't exist. You know, like now we talk about COVID. There are people are saying that thing hakuna. You know, it's just... And then some will try to rationalize and say like, no, it's pneumonia. You know, they try. Now, when we are talking about coping mechanisms, it is like this has reached the end. If I don't find a way of escaping, as you've said, then maybe it will take a heavy toll on me. Depression is actually extreme sadness, extreme sorrow. So we call it depression after it's gone over a certain duration of time, long period. And there are also other symptoms or characteristics you can look to say that somebody is depressed. But most of the time you have to look at the underlying issues.
Yes.
Most of the musicians struggle with identity issues. And we talked about identity being who you are, how society looks at you, because even you as Collins, you know who you are. But there's a way your fans look at you.
Yes. How you present, how I present myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your beliefs, how you package yourself. And I say identity is a choice. You are not forced.
Identity is a choice.
It
I like
is,
that. Yes.
because you've chosen to package yourself in the way you have. Now you call yourself Collo Mfalme. Collins is my spiritual son, for those who don't know.
FYI.
He called himself Collo Kauzi. That was the identity he gave himself. And there was another name, Kleptomaniac. And those two names have some similar meaning. Klepto is a compulsive thief, if I'm not wrong.
It's true.
When you pass, you must pass with somebody's pen. It's a psychological condition. You have to steal. And then there's Kauzi, which was the ghetto meaning now, a thief. Kwanza, Kauzi ni yule tu mwizi jeuri. So I used to have a problem with Collo, and I would tell him, Collo, now you are born again. And then it's like, Bam, uelewi. Now he understands. I would be like, that is your identity.
It's
That's who you are. How do you just call yourself a kleptomaniac? How do you call yourself a Kauzi? It means that's how you think. There's something called the subconscious. It comes out without you even thinking.
It's true.
Because when conscious, you arrange what to talk. When I came here knowing I have an interview. So consciously I pick what to say,
It's true.
how to present it. But when it comes to the subconscious, it can come out without me being unawares. If I called myself a Kauzi, that is a very subconscious level of saying the things that are in me. And maybe when you look at your past, ulikuwa tu Kauzi without knowing, conning people, you know, taking advantage of people.
Yes, especially trying to manipulate your way through things. And as a musician, you know, most of the time when you get that that attention that many musicians desire, you know, personally, with, you know, Kenya has its challenges, but as a creative in this sector, that is yet to be appreciated as it's supposed to, I used to try and get a lot of validation. And you know, that's the other question. Like, creatives get validation through acceptance of their audiences, you know? So how do you deal with that rejection? Because at some point, I felt rejected, you know what I mean? And how do you shield your mind from the dependence of that validation from other people? Because mimi nilikuwa najiita Kauzi, naona mazee hii Kenya mazee venye wase mazee kunaenda ni lazima mazee nikwe thug life. That was everything that was on my mind. But talk about validation.
Validation actually just means acceptance. Like, if I'm to validate you, which I did when I met you, it didn't mean that I accepted what you're doing, but I just received you as Collins Majale, this playboy, because that's what you used to be. There's nothing wrong. You know, we want to help musicians
It's true.
out there. We've had our conversations,
Yes.
and I hope it's not offensive.
No, none at all. In fact, I'm glad because, you know, this is a perfect opportunity. Please keep going, Mom.
When we talk about validation, Collins, when I received you, I'm just trying to explain so that the lay person may understand.
Yes.
Validation is just taking you the way you are, not judging you. You understand? And most crowds do that. When you go to sing and dance for them, what they are doing, you may say they are validating you, which to some extent, it could be yes and it could be no. Because validation just stops at that. And I was just sharing with one of the artists there, and I was telling him, even in church, I see a lot of validation, the messages that we nowadays preach. We want to validate people, and after that, we are not helping them to change. It's like, come the way you are. We just love you the way you are. When Collo kauzi, we need to understand you. You know.
It's true.
And when we touch on that, people get very offended. It cannot work like that.
It's true.
You see, you need to validate yourself. You sit and you say, I'm Collins Majale. Okay, I went through this. My background was this. Before I got born again, and even when I got born again, I was still struggling with things. You accept yourself and what you did, your experiences, your past.
It's kind of like forgiving yourself.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Because you cannot forgive yourself before you accept.
It's true.
Because there are people you say, forgive yourself, they say, I did what? Kwani? Kwani?
And it's a wrong validation. It's true.
Kwani si mimi nilikuwa na entertain watu, niliwakosea nini? Hizo zilikuwa siku za hizo ni hizo. That is a shortcut and it cannot work. That is manipulation, that is cheating people.
And even cheating yourself, because when you talk of healing, healing for the soul begins with the renewal of the mind. When you forgive yourself, you heal.
It is a process because healing is a process. You see?
It's not a one-day thing.
Yeah. And you see, one thing people don't know, most celebrities, politicians, leading figures, I keep talking about it.
Yes.
They are narcissists. When I talk about narcissists, it's people who are selfish, everything. They are self-centered, they are egoistic. And number two, don't look for validation from people.
It's true. And I'm seeing it even today, you know, like personally, I see musicians after likes. They want verifications. They want, you know, there's a way you can get a blue tick to get a verified account. You want followers. You want subscribers. Many people want to influence. Many people want to, that validation.
There's a personality disorder called histonic personality disorder. These people have very good social skills, and fortunately or unfortunately, most of them are leaders because of their social skills. They are able to network, but everything they do, from the networks to conversations, they all center around them.
It's all about them.
It's all about them. Look at most musicians. Look at most celebrities. How many people have they mentored to take after them? It's because it is about them. There's no vision. Those histonic personalities, we even see them in churches. Pastors who don't leave anybody after them. We see them among politicians.
It's true.
You are an MP for so long, but everything revolves around you. The moment you leave office, everything dies. Whatever you do is about you. You may talk well, you may seem to take out facts, you may be a very good entertainer, but anybody with a histonic personality, they will flirt, they will do anything, their conversations, they border around the way they dress, their demeanor. You know, it's all leading, it is all manipulation, it is just about them. That is histonic, and they always look for validation. Everything must be about them.
Centered around them.
Directly or indirectly. You cannot be a musician giving birth to many with different ladies and thinking that you are a celebrity. That clearly points to a disorder. And you see, you are using that to create a culture. There are people who are 20 years, 18, they are looking up to you.
But then one would say, and I know it's still out of the, it's out of selfishness, But, you know, you get that validation, but even how to deal with the rejection, because, you know, you get many musicians and other influencers get to the position of being celebrated. You know, you look for that validation, you get it. But how do you deal with it, with the rejection? Because at some point, you can't be a hero every day.
But also, are musicians really celebrated or they are used?
It's true. That's another thing. In Kenya, musicians, to say the truth, musicians are not celebrated. They are used.
That's why I talked about a codependent relationship. As long as you are not whole Collins Majale, as long as you don't have a vision, as long as you don't know who you are going to be used because you'll keep jumping everywhere. As long as you don't have vision and you seek validation. Today we will see you in a particular show saying you are a gospel singer. The next day we see you somewhere in Tanzania saying you are rapping. The next day we see you in Uganda saying this. Because number one, you don't have identity. You have no vision. You're seeking for validation. You know, seeking for validation from your crowd in itself points to a challenge. Because as a musician, you're supposed to lead, not just entertain. Communicate vision, communicate purpose. When this guy, Freshley, was talking about his song Stella, and people came to realize it was a true story. It is a message. This person doesn't have to be dirty or what. He communicated his message. So when you listen to that song, even as a Christian, you don't feel very guilty. At the same time, you can still dance to the beat.
Exactly.
And at the same time, there's a message. This is a person who knows what they are doing. You look at some bands that have stayed through and through. They have vision. They have purpose. And so the vision puts them together. But for people who are narcissists, even the songs they sing, sorry to say, they just fade out. Even when I go on social media, I keep asking, do people have to show their behinds? People even have to put napkins. People have to do everything. Yeah, it's all sickness. People, it's the culture that is being created. It is so false.
It's deceptive.
It is deceptive. There are no values. And even when the KFCB tries to put those values and to control, you even find grown-up people saying it is our right. Somebody must be there and show the people. They are saying that because the society is sick.
It's a very sick society.
There's a way music prepares. It creates the ambience. Have you ever just been somewhere? Music is so powerful, even with the imagination. It looks like a small statement, but it is not. So with all this kind of music, because it creates a particular ambience. There's some song you begin to sing, and there's a particular environment you create. Number two, when you're singing music, you know you are not in control of the psychological response of all the recipients.
You're not in control of the psychological response of the recipients.
Yes.
Put a pin on that. Put a pin on that. You're not in control of the psychological response of the recipient.
Yeah.
I like it.
So when your 16-year-old is listening and you are talking about being in the Keja today, so many things. Are you, and you say it is your right, it is expression. Why do you feel so bad when somebody wants to come in and put measures? Because who is helping that child? Because as you sing, for you, you're releasing what you're doing. But the content,
they say freedom of expression. That's what they try and say.
And then who takes care of the recipients?
Question to the musicians, and I would like this. How do you take care of your fans? Do you really care about your fans? That's a very interesting question, especially right now, you know, when you think of the current conversation. There's the coronavirus, COVID going on, and of course, people are being told you need to mask up, you need to sanitize, you need to observe social distancing. As musicians, when you think of the psychological preparation, how to sail through this time, you know, it's a downtime, it's a dry season periods, things are changing, there's a transition. So how do you pull through to the next side?
I know one thing people don't know is most celebrities are very lonely. They are so obsessed with keeping the image, the fame, being known. You need to understand that rejection is part of life. That's the first thing. To be rejected ni kawaida. Hata wewe the first time you tuned a chick sijui ulikuwa labda ulikataliwa kuna yule mtu alisema haka kamtu kamekuja.
It's true. It's true.
But saya nakuona uko juu. Some of us, there are people who used to think we are crazy. Now they see us. To be rejected is part of life. And you need to accept it. Number 2, you need to know why you are being rejected. Usiseme tu watu wananichukia. They could be rejecting you for a valid reason. You see, many times when you talk to people, people will tell you, don't judge. That's the language we use. But I was just sharing with somebody and saying, judging is inevitable. It may not be talked or spoken, but if I don't like what you're doing, even if I don't say it, I can decide to reject you quietly. I will avoid you. I've still judged you. My mind knows that you've crossed my boundaries. So we cannot pretend that we are very nice or good. So to face rejection, you need to know, why are people rejecting me? Is it something that actually it has to do with my character?
Character.
Yeah. Because most musicians sometimes, they overrate themselves. That's just the truth.
Wanajichocha sana. Wasanii wanajichocha mbaya sana. Pop culture, especially how in Nairobi we consumed a lot of American pop culture. And to some extent, to be honest, we didn't understand how it works. You know, so everyone wanted to drive a Ferrari, live in a mansion, have all the hottest chicks around you. It applies also to it also applies to the songs that are playing on radio. People would say these are the hottest songs.
And maybe that's why we cannot do. Sometimes you sit in the plane and you want to listen when you go to that international place there. You listen to some, like there's no Kenyan music. You're like, you want to listen. There's no content. People cannot just sit and listen to nonsense, you know. So even if you want to talk about romance or whatever it is, because God created sex and He created it in the context of marriage, make songs that are relevant with the proper language. But you are not crude, you know. Like, even animals have their mating seasons, you know. You just... You know, we have to talk these things because where we've reached, there's nothing to hide in our society. You sit in the house and you look at your children. You sit in church and you look at the youth. And sometimes even when you want to correct them as a pastor, you realize that their parents are the ones supporting and they're like, this is the youth culture. You don't understand. Somebody must be there and bring the society back to their senses. And without spirituality, it cannot work.
It can't.
Because whether we are Muslims, whether we are Christians, there are basic values that cut across all religions, you know, respect, integrity, character. You see, that's why when people are making love, they do it in private. So why do you imagine that you are coming to do all those obnoxious things just because you want to say you are gay and you want everybody to understand you? If it is a normal thing, why do you want everybody to see it?
That's the thing.
And to affirm and validate you. It means what you're struggling with, what we are seeing, the expression, is just a sign. There's an underlying issue that we need to go back.
Yes.
The gayism is not the issue. Whatever you want to show, you know, those things that our young people are doing. Somebody needs to, and I think our society is very sick.
But again, it's an agenda being sold using the celebration mountain.
Thank you. Because if you look, there's a whole agenda.
Yes.
And the people who are crafting this agenda are very strategic. Very intelligent.
It's true.
That's why you see, when you go to class, if you look, even the new definitions of gender, when you look at the lecturers, their people have been positioned there. They are selling a particular agenda.
Yes.
If you tend to challenge, it becomes a problem. You can even be discontinued because they don't have room for any other reason. It is an agenda being imposed. You look at the musicians, money is being poured out. You look at the media, especially the international media. They would rather put a report on when it comes to sexuality and some gender issues, pour in money and make it a headline. and forget even about the issues that people are going through on the ground. So these people are very strategic, and the celebrity mountain is very, very key. As much as we want to talk about depression, we cannot divorce spirituality from the celebrity mountain.
Yes.
Music, art is about the soul, and the soul is about the spirit. You cannot divorce it.
You cannot.
And if the people who are spiritual, the clergy, the imams, if they cannot choose to involve themselves in this mountain, the other spiritual forces of darkness are going to take advantage of that.
That's the thing.
So not everything is depression. Some of these are the covenants and the things that our young people have been initiated into, all in the name of fame, fortune.
Fame and fortune and the lavish lifestyle.
And not just music.
It's true.
Even preaching, even politics, everything now there's no value, there's no value totally.
There's a question that I'm still keen on getting your take on it concerning this period, this time, this season, the season that we're currently in. For the people who are in the mountain of celebration, for the musicians, the influencers, the sports, fashionistas, guys who are in this sector of the creative and cultural arts, how do we sail through?
Let me just go back to the rejection a bit. Once you know why people have rejected you, if it is character, begin to refocus. Work on your habits, your bad habits. If you like conning people, if you say lies, I'll be there for a show and you don't appear, those things. Because eventually those habits will bring you down. Number 3, learn to give out your time, your motives, get the right motives. Everything should not be about money. You see, you can go there, reach out to visit a children's home, use your music, use your entertainment, create time for people, contribute your time. You see, when you are a celebrity, people want to identify with you, but you can use your time to reach out to the vulnerable, you know, to give back to society. It should not always be like, pesa ngapi. Even sometimes in church when people give big donations, you get scared because the next thing, they might influence the way you preach.
That's another thing.
So, we are talking about manipulation.
There's a catch. There's yes.
So your motives should be right. You should get your perspective right. Musicians, get your perspective about life right. Life is not about entitlement. That's where musicians go wrong. You flout all the traffic rules. Those are character issues. And you want to make an issue. It's like, I'm Jimmy Collo. You don't know I'm the celeb. You know, that is still having the historic personality,
exactly.
hooting, blessing everywhere. It's, if you are a role model, then your character should show. You should be a man of integrity. You should be humble. You understand? Another thing I say when people reject you, use that time to sharpen your skills. Practice your voice. Learn more instruments. Because people cannot refuse excellence. They can say everything. You can have shortcomings. But if you know it, if you have it, they cannot deny it. And finally, when you have deep, deep issues, I'm sure there are hotlines. You can look for someone.
Reach out.
A professional. You can get somebody like me. Collo will put the line there.
If you are looking for expert advice, the number is scrolling down right now. You can reach out to Prophetess Nekesa Wasike, Echakara, and she'll be available to walk you through and also answer some of those deep other questions, because today was just sparking the conversation of music and wellness. And I really, really appreciate you making time to come through for this. I do not take it for granted.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am, sure, you can. You can.
Kidogo too. Because about thinking. Thoughts are very important. During this COVID-19, be very aware of what you're thinking. Because when you speak, somebody can know what you're thinking. And for you to heal, if you begin to have negative thoughts, because some young people are even leaving home, they want to go and meet their girls because of the music they are hearing, the things they are watching. You need to be aware and take time to reflect. You have to purposely choose what you think. That's how you take care of your soul. You have to be in control of your thoughts. Don't just sit there saying, Sasa nidu, and you're there watching pornography. What exactly is going to come to your mind? The next thing, you're thinking about suicide. The next thing, you are feeling so depressed. So be very careful what you're thinking. Reflect on your thoughts. Be prayerful. Read the Bible. You know what? And above all, don't allow television, don't allow your peers to influence you. Don't just allow anything to come in. You're not a garbage collector. Guard your heart with all diligence, for out of your heart stems the issues of life.
It's true.
God bless you.
Amen. Amen, Mama. Asante sana. Till next time, God bless you.
Thank you.
Salamu ya COVID.